As usual, we'll wait just a moment or two before we get started. This should be a very quick meeting though, as we have moved nearly everything off new business since it's at an odd time and we're headed to the WASDA conference.
So I just hit your meeting. I just joined the WASPO meeting for a minute and then dropped out because it's on my calendar. That's funny.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have anyone joining from Zoom, which does not surprise me for this time of day. So I call this meeting of the South Louis School Board to order. We will start with our land acknowledgement, and as we'll turn over to Joe Greenheimer for that.
Thanks. I don't have it memorized. South Whidbey School District would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral homelands, originally known as Chicolche and Luxseed, of the coastal Salish peoples, on the lands of the Lower Skagit, Tulalip, Swinomish, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Squamish, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial and have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude to the Indigenous people of this territory and for their enduring care and protection of the land in which we currently occupy and share through the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed by 82 tribes in Mukilteo on January 22nd, 1855. And I know we're trying to move along quickly, but I would be remiss during Native American Heritage Month and the month of Thanksgiving to not add a little thing, which is that I hope folks have a happy Thanksgiving and not only bring their own family and cultural traditions to the table, but also take the opportunity to deepen their knowledge about the Native American traditions and the partnership, the historical and longstanding story that Thanksgiving has evolved from. And yeah, pass it back to you.
Thank you. Are there any objections to approving the minutes and agenda as presented? Hearing none, the minutes and agenda are approved as presented. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented. We'll move on to public comments.
Public comments?
Okay.
Is this recorded, and how can you tell if I'm being picked up?
Yeah.
Yeah, the mic is here.
The mic's there and the camera's right there.
Here's the mic.
I don't care about the camera.
Yeah.
I care about the mic. At the last meeting I attended, I had some comments when you were talking about grading in general terms. And there was an issue that came up that troubled me and troubled some of the people on the school board and the people who were in the room. It was not resolved then, but after the meeting, a couple of the school directors came out and we had what I would call an animated conversation that I thought was very positive. I wish that kind of conversation could happen in your school board meetings, so you could all be participants in it and all understand what's happening. I don't know why you don't have such discussions in your meetings. What I've learned or what I experienced is people come and make comments and they are not responded to for some reason. Is that a policy? That the comments the public make would not generate? I know you don't want to get into arguments. I understand that. Nor do I. Nor did the people I spoke with afterwards. I thought it was very productive, very informative, and I look forward to that. ability to have the school directors and the administration understand what's going on in the minds of the people who come to your meetings. And it's really difficult to get that accomplished. Very difficult, because you can't have 3 or more people meeting without it being a formal meeting. So you can only have conversations with 1 or 2 school directors at a time. And that denies the other 3 or 4 school directors personal direct access to the information exchange that happens. I think that's too bad. I think that's a shortcoming. I don't know, I have my ideas, but I think it would be more productive if the school directors themselves and the administration tried to tackle that issue so the public can feel that they are more participant in your meetings. That's enough on that. I have a couple of meetings coming up with directors that I look forward to, very much so. And I've had meetings with all school directors privately. That's good. That's better than nothing. It's very good, very personal. The other comment I have, it relates to the meeting you're going to. And I wonder if the agenda for that is available, and if there will be reports made about what this school district did in participation at that meeting. Is there a written report that comes back? So.
Want me to respond? Okay.
I'll let you get through everything you have and then.
I couldn't hear what, I'm sorry.
I'll let you get through.
I need to say this. First off, I don't come here to try to cause any trouble. I'm very sincere in my interest about educating children. That's the primary thing I'm after. I find it I'm not hard of hearing very much. My wife says once in a while, but I don't need hearing aids. It's very difficult for me, and I think maybe other people, to hear what you're saying with your double mask on. I know you have your personal reasons for that. It's your business. But you need to understand that it is not easy to hear what you're saying, understand what you're saying. So I look forward to hearing about your meeting out there. I don't need a report now. I just want to know what's going on and in a form that other people in the community are interested in what you did, what you contributed, and what you learned. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you for the comments. First of all, a note that the restrictions on the number of board members who can meet at any given time that's a Washington state legal issue. It's not board policy. It's the
Open Public Meetings Act. I'm familiar with it.
I expect that there will be reports from the various board members at our December meeting during the board report period. And during board workshops, we encourage and request and sometimes beg for engagement and two-way communication with the community. We do like to keep our business meetings for accomplishing business, which I'll move on to right now. We'll go on to new business. We have one action item. Memorandum 2223-03. I got it. Approval of the elementary solar project. Is there any discussion to be had on this item?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Dan, hopefully you can help in JJ's absence. So the payoff or return on investment or break even was estimated at 8 years in the document. And I'm curious if that is based on an assumption of consistent or today's energy prices, or an assumption that energy prices will continue to go up at the rate they have gone up historically, or perhaps something else altogether.
My understanding when talking with JJ is that it's based upon today's rates. So with escalating energy price costs, it would be a quicker payback period potentially. But they used current rates over that period of time, number of kilowatts, saved per year to come up with that 8-year ROI.
Thank you. And then just to confirm, there are a number of payment milestones, but assuming the project goes as scheduled, it seems like they will all fall within the current fiscal year.
Assuming it goes according to schedule, yes. And it's like most grants we receive, we will expend the funds, claim them in, after the fact. But yeah, there's basically 3 milestones in this project.
All right. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I think it's fantastic, the work that JJ has been doing on this and that all those who've been assisting on it. I love that we're looking at solar. For so long, folks have been talking about how solar doesn't work very well up here because it's cloudy all the time. It's great that the technology is advanced to the point where that doesn't matter as much. So thank you to everyone who put time in on this.
Before we vote, I have a point of order question.
Yes.
Do we have a quorum?
We do.
presently? Okay.
Yeah, 3 of 5 is a quorum.
Okay.
We do not have our student reps. They're on they just finished school. So we can't get advisory votes from them, but we do have a quorum here.
And a quorum majority is at least 2 of 3 have to agree.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Let me get the proper title up here just to make sure I have it right. Oh, we actually have our student reps
Hey, there they are.
right now. We're just on new business, talking about the approval of the elementary solar project. If y'all have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts on that, not to drop you right into the deep end, but hey, hi, how's the deep end?
Personally, I think it's a really good project. I think it's a step towards moving our district towards being more sustainable. And I think this, along with like the electric bus grant, are really great steps in ensuring we have a cleaner future, not only in our community, but in the entire world. So I think it's a really
Yeah.
great project.
I agree. I think using solar panels is definitely moving forward and is a really great step with energy.
Just to get you up to date on what has been discussed, Joe had a couple of questions about how long it would take to pay off, to even out the costs, the return on investment, and those estimates were based on current prices, and a question about milestones on when the costs would come, and it would, if according to everything went according to schedule, it would be all this fiscal year. I believe we're done with discussion at this moment, so I'll move to advisory votes. Do we have advisory votes?
Yay.
Okay. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-03, approval of the elementary solar budget after the double yay advisory votes from our student representatives, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-03, approval of the elementary solar project has been approved. Move on to reports. Mr. Pullman.
Yes, very brief report. It's early in the month, so everything isn't in our accounting system, but I was able to manually create it to give you an update where we're at. Enrollment, we are currently district-wide with our average for the year at 1,150, and that's basic education and ALE. You can see the breakdown, 1,078 in our in-place program and about 72 in our ALE program. We are about 38 above our budget. The majority of that is K2. A few more kids showed up than we anticipated in like first grade, more than we had last year. So some of those that started later, and we talked about that, the reason for some of those. So that's a very positive that we are, currently up on enrollment. Next, please. Budget status report. Our fund balance about $5.6 million. We did receive about 1.1 million in local taxes this month. That always causes a big jump because of that funding. But 3.9 million in revenue and about 3.6 in expenditures year to date, with encumbered about 16.2 million. So we're about 89% of our budget at this particular point. And the next one is the other funds. Just quickly, capital projects has almost $2.4 million in there. We do have projects going on. We're hoping to wrap up the project at the community center within the next 30 to 60 days. When done, you can see that they're ready to put the roof on. Most of the interior work has been done. Debt service, transferring about $88,000 next week into that. We'll start making those semi-annual payments. ASB has about almost $100,000, so it's been growing after our situation. Transportation Vehicle Fund will have no change until August because we get payment once a year, and then Private Risk Trust about $791,000. Not a lot of activity in that one either. And that's our financial report.
Excellent.
Quick question.
Yes.
The project at the community center, is that the retrofit of the gym?
Yes, it is. So, yeah, not only did they anchor the walls to the foundation, they put structural struts in the end walls that are the CMU or the concrete blocks to keep that. Also replaced the roof structure with plywood because it was just planks going across, insulation, new roofing material, which they're doing now. We're going to replace the lights up above that had been taken out at one time and plywood had been put in, so they're going to replace the lighting up there. And then it looks like we're going to probably replace some of the heating ducts that are in the gymnasium. When we took them down, they were really apprehensive about trying to put them back together again. They were so old, they were afraid that they would fail. So a lot of electrical, plumbing, heating changes going on in there. Not so much to improve the system as just to bring it back into a functional and some of it brand new condition. So it does affect our ability to use that for athletics for our middle school. So we're hoping they'll be done by the end of December so that we have the winter sports available to work in there again. But yeah, it's come along and big project. It's taken quite a while.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm glad with that. I'll go to the next one. I also wanted to update you a little bit about potential funding considerations as we move into 23-24. And you know, we've talked about regionalization where we received 24% additional. That's gone down to 18%. And according to the legislature, they have to reevaluate that every 4 years or so. So here's the OSBI proposal to it is that they take the base allocation, which is what everybody across the state receives in these different classifications, and increase that by 6%, and then reduce the regionalization, which currently we're at 18%, down to a maximum of 12%, but for Island County, it's 10%. So what that really means is that it will potentially be a reduction in revenue for us if that's really what happens. They're also talking about adding a classified administrative staffing number, which is good because if you're not a certificated administrator, you're being paid as a classified staff, which is about half of what we pay people. So it wouldn't be huge, it'd be a small amount of money, but a little more potentially if that happens. But it's that regionalization and that base change. And to give you a perspective, most of the districts in Eastern Washington receive the state allocation because based on housing costs, right? Not as expensive, but they receive no regionalization. So if you're one of those districts, you're going to get a 6% increase in your base and a 10% increase on top of that for regionalization. If you're a district like South Woodby, who received 24% originally, down to 18%, even if they add 6% to the base and they give us a 10% regionalization, we still lose 2%. So we're still going to lose money no matter what, if this is what is accepted by OSBI to the legislature. And this is a recommendation. I do have a few concerns in there. And can you scroll up a little bit? At the way that our superintendent public instruction is phrasing this thing. It talks about a 6% increase to base salaries for all school employees. This is a funding allocation model. And if you see down below, it says increased base salary allocations. But if you read that top part, it sounds like it's going to be a salary increase to everybody that works for schools, and the unions will directly believe that's where they want to go.
Yeah.
Is that we should get a 6% increase no matter what. Well, that's fine, but if we look at our contract for teachers, it's 2.5% plus whatever IPD is, and they're going to say IPD is 6%. Though IPD right now is 7.7% based upon the last 12 months from October of 21 to 22. But even if it's 6% and that 2.5, that's an 8.5% increase. And we actually, if we look at this, we would receive less money next year than we did this year, but have to come up with an 8.5% increase for staff across the district. And we know that staffing costs is 85% of our budget It's a large number.
Well, and also that only covers the ones that are in the prototypical school model, right? That doesn't include the ones that are paid for by levies.
That's absolutely correct. And it only covers the percentage of the salary the state covers.
Right.
It doesn't cover the things that are negotiated that's above and beyond, because we pay more than what the state gives us. The state, for certificate staff, we get $88,000 roughly, okay? Our average is probably closer to 105,000 over the district for that group of people. So we're already, picking up that difference in there.
Right.
And if I look at the calculations, if we go up with the IPD rate of 7.7%, we would receive $750,000 more. But if we look at a 7.7 IPD plus whatever negotiated, we're looking at another $1.5 million. So we're getting about half of what we actually need to fund that increase. So just wanted to make you aware, this was Superintendent Rectal's recommendation to the legislature. The good thing is, rarely do they accept what he says. But the sad part is that normally they are more conservative than what he asked for.
Right.
So we'll see where the regionalization goes.
What I'd like to suggest to the board is that we consider drafting a letter and review it at the December meeting. We've received some suggested wording from other districts. So I think Dan and I can draft a letter for you to consider in December. And if the board agrees, I think we should send a letter off indicating what the impact of the various proposals actually are to our district.
And that would still get it there prior to the January legislative session, which is fantastic.
Because the way it's written, it's almost $900,000 less in revenue that we'd receive compared to the current model that we have.
Yeah, there are the numbers of the impact of that.
Yeah. And they don't talk about any IPD CPI increase. They talk about the 6% plus this. And if they do that, it's $900,000 based upon the current number of kids we have today. And that making the assumption that we don't have fewer kids next year, that alone. It's just a change in the funding.
So it's that impact is significant for us.
It looks good on the surface. It works well for Eastern Washington, but doesn't work well for Western Washington.
Yeah.
Would be the generalization.
Well, the generalization is that the Puget Sound region
Yeah.
did fairly well in the last regionalization,
Yeah,
and everybody outside of that did not.
yeah,
And, they're looking at different models of doing it, and one of them was changing from housing costs to median wage, which totally affects Island County.
yeah,
If you think about the median wage that's generated on the island, not people that work off island in Seattle or other places, that doesn't count.
Right.
Because that's not where they're working.
Oh,
It's,
Yeah.
so that we have one of the lowest rates in the state according to OSBI.
right.
And that's how they come up with that 10% regionalization for Island County, and they're doing it as a county rather than as a district.
Right.
Just
because-
the change is significant from housing costs
Yes.
that they did the last time.
Right.
So they're totally
we-
upset in the apple cart. And Superintendent Rakedahl keeps saying that there will be a hold harmless, but there is no hold harmless under the plan.
Yeah, if there's a hold harmless, it doesn't hurt us and it only helps other people, but if there isn't, it would.
Right.
have-
And this has nothing to do with our declining enrollment.
Right,
This is just the change in the funding structure.
yeah,
And honestly, a hold harmless does hurt us. That means it stays at the 22-23
Right.
rate
right,
and there's no increase.
right.
So instead of losing $100,000, we basically break even
Right.
on the funding, but we still have those expenditures that
Right.
increase.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then going forward, it's gonna hurt us because we are now in this new model.
right,
And since we didn't have an increase, you're right, the hold harmless works for 1 year.
well, yeah, it would
And
depend.
then we
how
still
long
stay
that
behind.
is.
So I just think it's important as we plead
Mhm.
that yes, enrollment always plays a part, but that's not
That's
even
not
the issue here.
Yeah, yeah. Especially since our enrollment is
Stable.
nearly stable, nearly the same.
Well, it's
Uh,
certainly not as far down as we thought it would be.
Yeah, it's down from last
It's
year.
down some.
It's above budget.
Yes.
But we were quite conservative with the budget, knowing where we're going.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be down, but not, yeah, I'm not sure, but not huge, but it still continues to
Yes.
decline.
Yes,
And we anticipate that would happen next year also, which
Yes.
amplifies the
yes.
problem.
Yeah, this definitely sounds like something we want to get involved in, at least to me.
Yeah, agreed.
And at least we need to talk about it publicly so
Yes.
that our community understands where we are financially.
Yeah.
Because it could have a big impact on what our budget process looks like in the coming year.
And the actuality of the proposal, because if you just read that top paragraph, it's like, hey, 6% increase for everybody.
Right.
And
It's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah. or continuing to raise
Yes,
it,
yeah.
Since it's something we've been talking about for a couple months now at least.
Well, several years, they started at the 24% going down to 18.
Yeah,
That was a real red flag that we have a problem.
I mean, it's changing.
Yeah, the change, yeah.
So just in terms of superintendent's update, obviously, we're going off to the conference in Spokane for WASDA. And to answer the question that was asked earlier, yes, there is a full agenda online for that. So if we have members of the public who are interested, they can go to wssda.org, wasda.org, and find the full agenda that the board has the opportunity to attend. So I wanted to make sure folks knew about that. We will be leaving this evening with our school board and our 2 student school representatives, and we will return on Saturday. The other thing I wanted to call to the board's attention is we continue to work on developing the bond, which we anticipate will go before the voters in April. And we will do the first preliminary conversation of that in December at the workshop. And then each time we meet, we'll have more and more information on that. So the architects have been working with the bond team to come up with their best recommendation. So that's coming up, and that's all I have for superintendent's update.
Okay. Any board comments? Okay,
Adding the link to the agenda for WASDA, so.
Great.
perfect,
everyone
thank you.
you.
can continue on online.
Then, since it seems we're done with the agenda, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so